So thank you and the folks online for joining us at the Global Center for Christ Consciousness. We'll begin with our guest musician today. Let's welcome back John Dumas.
Good morning.
We open our minds, we open our hearts, we open our being to your presence, to your love. We give to you all of our misbeliefs, all of our thoughts that we are limited, susceptible to harm in any way. Father, Mother God, we give you our false self, egoic beliefs. We ask to be filled instead with your beautiful, perfect presence. Show us what it is, what it means to choose you as our guide. Show us what it means, what it looks like. Show us the gifts that come from choosing you as our guide. We know the karma of choosing otherwise. Show us the gifts of having God as our guide. Show us the gifts in our health, finances, friendships, and in every aspect of our lives. And we give thanks in advance that we can dance with delight in the light of God. And so it is.
and white eagle. Put into your heart thoughts, thankfulness for everything, for life, for food, for the joy of living. Be thankful for the experiences which may appear to be bitter, for those hold blessings and opportunities for learning. By bringing forward an attitude of thankfulness into our challenges, we will then change our relationship to them. When we allow change within us, it will change what is outside of us. Even where there is lack, we can choose to see God's power to provide. Each morning and throughout the day, give thanks for all that you have given and for all that you have received. And so it is.
With the sounds and the prayers kept in our minds, let's join together for our mission statement. The cards are in front of you if you want to pull those. Most of you know it by heart by this time. Together, please. The global center for Christ consciousness is a spiritual center for students and masters on the spiritual path. We are dedicated to awakening the inner Christ and to creating a world of love, peace, joy, and abundance. And once again, let's welcome John Dumas. So thank you all for being with us again. If you'd like to, you'd be so kind, you can share what topics you'd like me to cover today, please.
Consistency.
Okay.
The wisdom of the whales.
Okay.
Weather anomalies.
Awareness.
Joy abound. I don't know.
Spinoza.
Spinoza.
The Sixth Sense.
Somebody,
Staying centered in the heart.
okay, good, thanks. There was one there that was over here somewhere that we missed. Yes?
Great.
Pardon? Okay, thank you. All right. Wow. Just a lot of breadth of topics. And I've said this before, you know, to the average person, to the average teacher, to the average human being, everything is so separated. Topics like this are completely separated. I just think it's funny because I can bring anything together. I can bring, you know, that's because we're all supposed to be able to do that. So I'm not claiming anything special. I'm saying this is the way it's supposed to be. There shouldn't be any such thing as split between races or generations or, you know, genders or these are things man made up. They don't exist in God. So when people bring to God questions that are varied, problems that are varied, there's really only one. You know, when we feel separated from love, from God, it divides us into so many different personalities and issues, triggers. We cover lots of deep topics here. Could be light language one week, healing grief the next week. I mean, as a theme, we still cover a lot of variety in each Sunday, but yeah, there's so much depth and yet diversity in topics. But sometimes you can just feel that there's a theme underneath things. People can ask for 10 different topics, and you can still feel sometimes that there's a theme. You know, one theme, when you're talking about grief or stuff with the world and challenges and politics and economy and weather anomalies, as one of you mentioned, all these things, there's only one of us here, and we're seeing the individual one or the collective one, but it's still one. And what we see in the world are images of ourselves. And I know that's hard for some people to accept or believe because they're used to having topics about other things and other people. You know, why did my soulmate walk out? Now I need somebody to walk in. A walk-in I need, you know. Go to a website, walk-ins welcome. No, but you know, think about that. Like, there's so many things that people struggle with, want to learn about, and we cover so many different topics. But look for the themes underneath it. It's not diversity of topics for diversity's sake. There's underneath it all there's this love of connecting with God. You hear me talk about it, whether I'm talking about the Divine Mother or God or Jesus or whatever, but underneath it all, it's reuniting with God. And the diversity of issues and triggers and relationships and trauma, you know, that's there. And if we don't talk about it at all, which I do want to talk, and we do talk about it, but if you don't address it the way people want to hear it, they will feel like something's been left out. They don't want to, sometimes people don't want to know the actual answers. They just want to talk about the problem. You get what I'm saying there? And one theme underneath so many things. We could talk about spiritual centeredness and people go, God, that was amazing. Loved you talking about centeredness, which is the same as talking about setting healthy boundaries. But if you're not centered, you won't know how to set healthy boundaries. then it's the same as also, well, I feel alone, I don't have a partnership, and your centeredness will address that. So any solution, they're all the same. More God. That's it in a nutshell. We could talk about prayer. That's more God. We could talk about healing. More God. It really is about returning to our oneness with God. But we need diversity of topics because we might need to learn about forgiveness to be able to return to God. We might need to learn about getting sober, clean and sober, so that we can return to God. One theme that I think is almost never discussed is just the idea. Here's the secret. Underneath all these things, we can talk about it as being centered, mastery, finding yourself, waking up versus being asleep. Here's another word for it all: maturity. Spiritual and psychological maturity. Michael, could you throw in there in the talk, why did my soulmate leave? Because they were psychologically and spiritually immature. You decided to wake up. And if you're waking up, it doesn't work to settle for spiritually, psychologically immature people. When you have a partner who won't stop cheating, who won't stop getting stoned, who won't stop whatever else, they won't decide to get a job, that's because you live with an adolescent. They're not choosing to wake up. Part of spiritually, we call it spiritually awakening. With that comes maturity. It doesn't make it any easier that women seem psychologically, they say, to grow up sooner than men. So ladies, you got to date someone 10 years older, always. No, I'm kidding. But if you're looking for somebody that's remotely in the same ballpark, otherwise, they're going to have a session with Michael and go, man, I'm with a girl and she's a bummer. We used to get stoned and sex all the time. And now she doesn't. Because she's mature. And she doesn't feel it's appropriate to be with an adolescent, which is actually a healthy decision. Anyway. People can blame numerology, astrology, past lives, all kinds of topics. Try this out. Just try to weigh in one thing. Not their stars, not their numbers, their psychological maturity level. Just try that out. And you'll sit there and go, oh, like all these epiphanies suddenly as to why that guy's not in your life anymore, why that girl is gone or whatever it is. Your family members, they can be 105, your parents or grandparents, and they can still be psychologically immature. The word like boundaries, but what are you talking about? And you're going to sit there and try to convince them about pyramidology and ancient civilizations. Listen, if they're still in the dark ages, why are you trying to explain it to them? Why don't you just go, this is kind of funny. I'm hanging out with people that are less mature. When Jesus says, forgive them, they know not what they do, that's partly what he's saying. Forgive them. They're not going to get it. Not because they're flawed or bad or wrong. They're just not evolved psychologically and spiritually. Put that in context. Put that in your life. And look at your relationships, and it starts to change everything. Wow, my favorite date was there was this edgy guy, this really hot girl. There's the adolescent, there's also the young adult, the 20s. People aren't really psychologically and spiritually getting it till they've gone through the dark night of the soul. Something happens in us when we mature. And I'm not pushing let's all act old. I'm talking about maturity. I'm not saying, let's, instead of sacred oils in the bookstore, we're going to start handing out knitting needles, and we all just, and we all just sit on our porches knitting. No, I'm not promoting that. But there's something really funky about how we can talk yoga and we can talk oneness and holistic health and all these concepts. And in Sedona this happens, but other places too. All the talk, all the yoga and whatever, and then there might be let's get together and have a potluck this week, or let's get together and have a drumming circle or whatever. All too often, people are still breaking out the alcohol and pot, and they're smoking and getting stoned. And now you can call that hypocrisy because you're talking holistically, but you're still getting stoned. So just try a different word. It's actually just not mature. Am I wronging it? No. You can smoke your pot, drink your alcohol. You can even smoke your alcohol and drink your pot. Whatever you want to do. That's your business. All I'm saying is, why don't we just call it what it is? Don't shame the people. Don't wrong them. They're just still at that level. People that have, as they say in 12-step groups quite often, religion is for people who fear God. It's still that fear-based stuff. We don't want to identify with a scared, personality or consciousness. But there's people that have actually been there. There's people that fear hell in recovery. There's people that fear hell, and there's people who have been there. Spirituality is people who have been there. And they just kind of awakened. I'm not wronging that you do whatever you do. But it is kind of funny. If you go to the other side and they say, you're 108 when you died, and you were still hiding behind getting stoned because you didn't want to look at your stuff. We have some lifetimes, not one, several, for you to go back and work on this kind of stuff. You got to wake up. You got to become courageous. You can call yourself, I'm a goddess of nature. Yeah, I'm the goddess of nature. Yeah, I really like, who I am. Wow. And you know what? There are gods and goddesses in mythology of hell. But is that what you want to be the goddess of? I'm the goddess of, but you're not. Just own what you are. It's okay. I don't want to go there yet. I don't want to be in recovery yet. I don't want to get away from addictions yet. It's too scary for me. Own it, because that's halfway there. Just own it. When you pretend, no. Getting stoned and being used and using others, when you're sleeping with people you don't know or don't respect, that's not the goddess of anything good or the god of anything good. And again, it's okay, to each his own. But we all know that, when you're adolescent, you're partying a bit. That's what people consider to be fun, and whatever works for you, that's fine. But there's a point when you start having kids, something should click where you go, you know what? I don't want my children waking up saying, where's mommy? Oh, she passed out again. There's something in you that should mature. And women often get that sooner than men. You get what I'm saying there? It's kind of weird. When I was divorcing back, 4 decades ago or whatever it was, one thing I didn't want was I didn't start dating or doing anything for years, because maturity involves caring about other people, not caring about what they think of you, not that kind of codependence. But I just knew that I had kids, and I didn't want to have one of those, no offense if you've been there, but I didn't want to have one of those, this is your Aunt Mary this week. Oh, this is your Aunt Susan the next week. I thought that, no, that's not, because I felt a certain level of responsibility and healthiness. It wasn't like I gave that up for them, and if I did, that would have been benevolent and good. I just knew that it wasn't healthy. So it's really nice when we can check in and say what works for us and what doesn't work for us. Now, if you're spiritually awake, you're going to naturally have more maturity level, and that might involve responsibility. See, somebody that wants to just get stoned or whatever too excessively, they're not being responsible people. I mean, go study your 12-step group. I'm not going to preach to you on that. The bottom line is lacking responsibility is part of addiction. So if you're not wanting to step up and kind of become healthier and more responsible, and remember, becoming responsible and healthy, let me tell you, cuts down on how many more lifetimes you've got to live. It also involves your mind starts to wake up. You see clearly, like you're sober, psychologically. You're sober. And I know some of you are like, well, this is a bummer. And don't think that I'm like a prude. Well, I am. But don't think I'm too much of a prude. This is funny. This weekend, I tell you these stories every so often. I volunteered at a lot of things, in my life. And I probably put as many hours in volunteering each week as I do working. But with sessions and all that I do. But this weekend there was this state sale that Judy, one of our board members, does. So I volunteer there. Now, I'm sitting, she asked me, can you watch the desk for me? Well, I go over and sit down and watch the front desk where she checks people out. Now, the households have bottles of alcohol. You can't sell alcohol, so she gives them as a gift to people that would like a bottle of wine or champagne or whatever. Now, there's this one bottle, and it says malt. Okay, now I've never had alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, but I see the word malt and I'm like, oh, I love malt balls. I love malt balls. And I'm thinking, oh, you know what? This could taste like my malt balls that, Now, here's what happened. Within 60-second story, right? I took this bottle and and I shoot this, and then I stop. Immediately, I'm like, this is horrible. Whatever this is horrible. And I'm like, so what do I do? Spit it out? Well, I can't because the trash bag, it's plastic, it might have a hole in it. Now it'll leak out. No, I'll go to the kitchen. No, because somebody's going to talk to me between me and the sink. So I'm sitting there going, but do something. You know why? Because I couldn't feel my lips anymore. They were burning. And I'm like, what do I do? Do I spit this out? Do I drink? I'm like, oh my God. And my lips are, my mouth is going, screaming. There's a horrible taste. And whatever this was, it was called whiskey. So I just go, and I'm like, how can anybody ever feel a craving for this kind of abuse? Anyway, so these are the awkward kind of stories in my brain, sitting there going, Michael, your lips are going numb. What do I do? Having this conversation and just people in the room, it's just, but inside I'm like, So I'm not saying we can laugh at these kinds of things, and just doing our best. I don't think it helps for us to be prudes and to make ourselves behave. But besides cutting down on lifetimes, besides becoming awake, one of the other perks is that people are going to learn from you when you demonstrate healthier boundaries and healthier maturity level. It's not boundaries because I'm defensive and I have to set boundaries because I'm so messed up. I actually like myself, is what we could say. And liking myself makes me desire to be mature. So when people are looking at you and they are always watching you, everybody is always watching you even though we don't know it. But especially when you start to wake up, you start to glow a little more, even if it's a little. All the bugs out there that are still asleep, called people, immature, and they notice that light. So they watch you more. Do not underestimate what I'm saying. People are watching. Your children are watching you even when they're watching TV. They hear how you're arguing. They can feel anger, projection, hatred, or whatever else. They're watching TV, they're watching you. You can be cold to that, and just because that's called immaturity and being selfish. Well, we're going to fight, and it's too bad, the kids. Then don't have them. If you're not going to be a good example for them, don't have them. This is so important. This isn't just about vibrational frequencies in your mind. You can't just chant yourself to heaven. If you don't have the ability to be different, you've got to integrate what you've read. You've got to become what you've talked about and these prayers and meditations. It really doesn't suit us. And in fact, it'll injure you more to talk the light and to live the dark. It'll damage you more because you know better. You shouldn't have known better. You should have stayed asleep and stoned all the time. Never woke up. Because then you're just this dense being and you can try to hide. You're still going to have to come to this moment eventually. But once you've heard this, once you've turned the light on, there's no going back to sleep. And now you're going to be weighed against what you know to be true. Not what you were unconscious around. Every bit of knowing, the light comes on more. And the more it comes on, the more it shines light on darkness. So you can try to hide in darkness and ignorance and, addictions and so on. But the more you wake up, the more you can't pretend anymore. So there are beings, there are angels, there are guides, there are even, obviously, animals in mythology, especially in mythology in North and Central and South America and Africa as continents and some other places. But it's interesting, we talk about mythology, gods, Zeus and Odin and so on. But in people, more tribes and indigenous people, one category of gods that we don't hear as much about in some societies, cultures, is animals. So a lot of cultures actually said there were animal spirits before there were animals that were guiding creation into taking place. So when we think some indigenous cultures, it's weird. They talk about and they worship raccoon and ants, and it looks really strange. But what they're really saying is behind nature was a creative spirit that was involved with creating the universe and the world. The universe first, and then the world, and then our lives. So what I'm saying is there's an intelligence we can call on. Everybody's got guardian angels. And the guardian angel isn't just like in the movies where it's like, well, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? These are beings that are holding presence. But there are animals that are holding presence for the planet. Whales, dolphin, they're holding presence. And other animals, great spirit in the eagle and so on. There are animals that some are less, just like humans, some are less holding presence, and some are like totems or sentinels holding presence, and we kill them. Now, I'm not saying you should feel bad and you should, that you're a naughty, bad person. Why do we do this? We have to heal our minds. We have to grow up. You will not kill animals as much when you mature. It's an adolescent thing. Look, a bug, stomp. That's not a mature, spiritually mature person. You see what I'm saying? You don't do experiments on animals and think it's mature. It's a very disturbed, young adolescent-ish kind of thing. Women have this unique gift and or job, task of holding presence. It's the strangest thing because women are, on one level, they're like mothers because they are an image of the divine mother. Whether you've had children or not makes no difference. Women have this energy, and the women in men, the female in men. The female is this thing that holds presence, but it's like mother energy. So as much as we think it's really cool to hook up and connect and meet and date and all that, it's really interesting because women have this agenda, secret agenda that disturbs men when they start to sense something's wrong with their agenda. Women have this agenda, which is, I'm going to pretend to be hot. I'm going to pretend to date you. I'm going to pretend to go along with the things you want to do. But at some point, I'm going to show up and I'm going to say, dude, grow up. Son, I'm attracted to my mother. Yeah. Only when she was pretending to be something that was meeting your level. At some point, she's calling for you. And she's going to say, now I want you to be at my level. And that's where a lot of relationships part ways. Yeah, man, she's not the woman I thought she was. Thank God. Because then you would have just remained immature. And a woman knows this on some level. She knows something's wrong with this picture. It's a strange and beautiful thing. She knows in her conscience. In Tantra, in the Kama Sutra and ancient teachings of Tantra, they say women are more naturally mature, women are more naturally tantric. And there's a meaning to that. And I'm not trying to promote females over males and all that. I'm just saying that we have these natures. We have to mature. And part of the women archetype, consciousness, is holding space for that awakening. It looks like women are here to birth babies. Well, the first one is your husband, your partner. Birth him into spiritual maturity. I know what it must sound like if you're a guy going, thanks a lot. I know I'm not getting anytime soon now because Michael did this talk. Go elsewhere. Go to a bar where everybody remains asleep and dysfunctional. I mean, if that's what you want to do. But there are other options. How beautiful it is. Say to your partner, even if it's the female in your male partner, say to your partner, I'm sorry. Part of me is terrified at moving from the norm of this world, the social norms and the projections and agendas. Part of me is terrified from moving from that to saying to you, there's something you have, woman, female, etc. There's something you have that I'm supposed to actually be here to get, and it isn't just your body, and it isn't just your relation, your presence. There's something that I've been afraid of, and it's God. and it's my own awakening. Now, some women are going, this is too much. I don't know about this stuff. How do I birth it? What do I do? The mother is so close to you, she's in you. So all you do is surrender to her and say, I'm ready to become a divine mother, a daughter of heaven. I'm ready to birth things to a new level. I'm going to birth my children. I'm going to birth my partner. I'm going to birth my thoughts, as I use this term. The daughters of heaven, which are really the divine feminine in all of us, they have a destiny. They're going to learn to ignite everything they look upon. They're going to ignite relationships and maturity into the men around them and so on. They're going to ignite their children. And they aren't going to settle anymore for, well, I want my kids to like me, so I'm going to do what they want to do. No, you start holding more and more confident presence. Just sentinels and pillars of consciousness. You know, we're going somewhere. And your partner might say, this is weird, this is too much. Just say, let's talk about it together. Let's navigate this. But I can't go back to being anything else. I'm moving forward with you or without you. Everybody in your life should be put on notice. I'm changing. I'm moving forward, and it's with you or without you. And it isn't, it's women, and it's our own individual choices. There's animals that we kill that are there to hold presence. Now, I'm not trying to get you all upset about the killing of animals, even destroying trees the way we often do. These are ancient forests, and they symbolize something. It isn't the tree. It's the symbol of the tree, which is life. It's ancient knowledge. You know, do you ask the tree what it is? Or do you just say, well, sorry, I'm going to fell you and we're going to get wood out of it? You know, it's such a selfish, consumptuous consciousness that we have. The world is changing in many ways, but soon, people will be saying, I no longer want to hear a politician who lies through their teeth. I no longer want a doctor who gives me health advice when they're part of a system that's focused on keeping people sick. Contradiction and hypocrisy, and I'm not picking on anyone in particular, I'm saying we're getting to the point where it's going to be no. And you would think it's going to be the male in us that stands up and fights, because that's the warrior, against these old systems. And it isn't. It's the woman, the female, that has to say, no more. There's a common story, folk tale, in Greek mythology about a time when the men kept going to war and causing destruction, and children are losing their father in war, and so on and so on. And the women are just fed up with it. So the women got together and said, okay, men, we're putting you on notice. You will never receive sex from us again until you call peace from all these battles and wars. You know, and it starts off with a no way, man. About a minute and a half later, I'm kind of in the mood. Then all of a sudden, okay, peace talks. So someone's got to be that power that's feminine, that's inside, not masculine outside. This sentinel, this centeredness. And you're asking about things like joy, abundance, abound, joy. Joy doesn't just fall into our laps. Joy and inner peace, those are effects. You understand? Those are effects of work done inside. So joy is already there, but I don't see it or feel it because I have to make some maneuvers inside. I've got to, it's almost like saying it's the good karma. Do you want a better life? Do you want a better relationship? Stop giving into things that don't resonate with what's better, healthier. It's an astounding thing when we say maturity. And again, I'm not saying you can't still drink or whatever you do, that's fine. But where's it coming from? Does your I am self say, what I need right now, I'm in touch with my I am self. I'm in the Om of life. The sacred music, it is right in and through every cell of my being. And what I want right now, I'm coming out of meditation and I go, six pack. I need. That's never happened in the history of the planet. That somebody was in their God self that said, right now, yeah, we feel all the God oneness, but you know what we really need is a six-pack. That's never happened. But should you shame yourself for it? No. Just own that. Do that. Say it's kind of funny. Divinely speaking, I am in this frequency of total oneness and completion. Isn't it funny that I still feel the need for, desire for a six-pack or whatever you're into? Just laugh at it. Own it. You try to pretend it's not there, minimize it, deny it. You're actually building a powder keg inside that's going to blow. Own it. It's just this, to be able to laugh at it. Laughing at it eases the tension around it. And then it'll ease the addiction to it. And it'll start to resolve itself. It's kind of like once a secret's out, it starts to dissipate. So once you own these things, they don't have as much power over you. And you don't have to pretend they're not there, and you don't have to deny them, and so on and so on. So one of you used that phrase, I don't know. And that says so many things. I don't know. I think I feel divine, but what is this that I still want to be intimate, or I still want a person in my life? I feel too alone. What is it that I get upset about the way people treat the animal life? I mean, those are triggers, but look at it. What is this really about? The I am in me is in a state of total and complete tranquility and peace. The triggers are not my I am self. So don't justify reactions you have to politicians as being righteousness. Righteousness comes from the words right consciousness. You're never in your right consciousness when you're angry, triggered. That's hurt. And where's it coming from? As one of you put, centered in the heart, right here. The reactive me is my human personality, unhealed wounds, immaturity. Centered in my heart, man, just don't tell me centered in the heart leads to getting stoned, because it doesn't. And I don't mind. People do what they want to do. Forgive them. They know not what they do. And it means it's an immaturity. And I know, this triggers a lot of people. I've done talks. I've worked with institutions and universities, metaphysical, spiritual, New Thought churches. And I can go in there, they can say, we're so messed up, we need more of what you're doing at the Global Center. Help us. And I say, okay, you sit down with their board and you say, here's what you can do. And they're like, wow. And then they don't, and they close their doors a month later. And part of me goes, wow, they were so close. They wanted maturity. They wanted to know how to function at a higher level. And the human part of me is like, dang, we were so close and they blew it. And I have to always remind myself, and I'm saying to you too, when you see people that seem like they want to be more spiritual, but you see the immaturity level, be careful not to get caught up in it, because what's happening is we get hurt when we see that people aren't what they told us they were. You date someone that seems like you guys connect, but wait, are they connecting with the old you that still wants to be shallow or party or whatever? Or are they connecting with the new you? A lot of things that don't go well are because of this maturity issue. Just not owning and seeing that there's really a maturity issue. That's all you have to do is see that it's that. Some boards are not spiritually committed and mature enough. You can see it in their behaviors. So you give them advice, but don't be shocked that they don't do it. Well, same for you and your life. Look back at heartbreaks. And you could have all kinds of words to it. You could say, well, I guess astrologically. You can even say, I guess it wasn't meant to be. Like God's up there going, no, I don't think so. That's not happening. But take responsibility and say, how many times did you take a job that didn't resonate with spiritual and psychological responsibility? How many times have you had friends that didn't resonate with being spiritually and psychologically healed and mature? And definitely dating. How many times have we dated or married people that it didn't resonate? But don't blame yourself too much, because what I would do if I were you is go, it had to resonate with something, but it's just not the mature part of you. And then there's this belief. All right, so what I get from this talk is I probably should break out the knitting needles and just start planning on getting more mature spiritually and psychologically, which means no fun zone. I'm going to get a shirt that says no fun zone, and I used to be happy when I partied, but Not anymore. That's not it at all. What happens when you practice spiritual and psychological sobriety and maturity, you start to feel bliss. You start to feel what you called about this abounding joy because you're waking up. It's like you have a secret. Oh my God, this is amazing. To know the presence of God and to know that people observing me actually perceive me as a pretty decent person. Any of us, me, it's any of us. Wow, this actually feels great. So you feel there's a glowing that's growing out here, and there's an awakening, and it's a maturing. But it isn't you become a stick in the mud. You feel so much joy. You want to dance more. But you don't need to be stoned to dance. You don't need to be, I said. You don't have to be a little tipsy to be intimate so that you can lose inhibitions. It's like you're already naked to the world. You're already open and your soul wants to dance. It's ready to dance. The old you that you thought was having fun was actually needing to stimulate and sedate you into moods that you should be feeling already. But they're organic. Don't talk to me about organic and you keep getting stoned. I know you think, well, there's organic things that I can get stoned on. What I mean by organic isn't that you found something that grows in nature and call it. I'm talking about you organically. There's only one thing that's organic: your divine presence. Not your body. Your body's not organic. I know you think it is. It isn't. You can't, there's not enough hummus that you can chew on that'll make you any more holy. There's not enough vegetables. You can just graze in your organic garden outside. It won't make you holy if you aren't already identifying with holiness in here. What's organic is that I am made in God's image. What's organic is this: when I start to act like it. My actions start to become a reflection of my natural, organic connection to light. You see? When you say, no, organic means to my body, you don't have a body. I know it looks like it, but that's not organic. The only organic you is your soul, your spirit, to put it in even more specific terms. Your spirit is organic. Your body is a manufactured thing. And by manufactured, I don't just mean it was mechanically made. I mean it was dreamt up. It's just a hologram. So there's a point where we start to identify. When you're identifying with healthiness, real healthiness, it comes from here, not from more organic things out here. Your best relationships are when they come from something in you, igniting and choosing maturity and boundaries in your heart. Things change. You change. There's things I don't feel are part of me anymore. Nice. You're waking. You're going from sleeping, but you're not awake yet. Somewhere in between, you're waking. And that's a really beautiful thing. Some people might think, man, you used to party, you used to be so cool. I've had clients say this all the time. My partner, oh my God, we had so much fun. What they're really saying is I could get out of them whatever I wanted at any given time. They said yes when they saw me stoned all day. They supported my ego. That's what happens. But that's not maturity, spiritual and psychological. And I use those words because we're not just talking about something abstract, spiritual. Psychological maturity. A person who takes responsibility, a person who knows what makes them tick, why they have compulsions to do things. Not having them, but do you even know why? Waking is when you learn why you have them. You're not completely awake where they're all gone yet, but isn't it interesting to find out? Yeah, when I start to get, even when you say, I get agitated when I haven't eaten in a while, that's not your divine self. But it's nice that you know that. You know why? Because you used to take it out on us. Now you know it, so you take better care of it. Beautiful. We're happy and we support you to continue learning about yourself. Things that get you to turn back into yourself are typically going to be the healthiest things. Things that make you project on others is an immature person. When you get in arguments with your partners, even if you're blaming life on the stars, something is still wrong with this picture. This marriage, and he's a whatever, a quadruple Aries with a bad moon rising. You can, and I understand, because a good astrologer will say, yeah, wow. We understand that the external support of those theories, but what have you done to go, and why did I choose that person? What in me was attracted, to the guy named Buck, who had his sleeves rolled up with a pack of cigarettes there, grease under his fingernails, just what did I go, oh my God, I can't imagine going home without them today. And he's like, this, this intense energy, and you're like, oh, it's such a turn on. What in God's name is arousing about that? And there's all this dysfunction. Sit back and go, I get it. I actually get it. It's immaturity. Use that word and see it, how it shifts the way you look at it. It's immaturity. People that have that immaturity, they can't even hear this conversation. It would disturb them too much. We had somebody last week say, you're just so harsh on, people that aren't awake. I'm not harsh at all. I think it's funny. I don't stand here going, and they're going to hell, and there's a place in hell, fifth rung of hell, for people that are not awake to the Lord. That's not me at all. But am I awake enough to go, call it for what it is? Call it for what it is. To be able to be so awake that people cannot bribe you psychologically. Mom, but like they'll like you more if you, no, honey, that's not going to happen today. Or partnerships, You used to be, oh, that'll work. On an awakened goddess, yeah, guilt me. That's going to happen. She should be like, you're kidding, right? You're actually going to try to guilt me into being shallow with you? No. Somebody's got to speak up. And I've said this for many years. The spiritual leaders that were popular, authors and so on, in the 90s, 80s, 90s, and so on, I said this way back then. They're all going to come to an end because all they are is authors. They're not living the responsibility of being spiritual leaders. And I said, what's going to happen is the students, and especially female, are going to come forward and start more and more being that. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying something hypocritical because I'm a male. No, I'm very much also female. I'm in touch with, we're supposed to all be in touch with all aspects of ourselves. And if I were only a male teacher, I just can't even picture it happening. Somebody just yesterday said, oh no, you're very female. And I'm like, what? Oh, what do you mean by that? But it's a beautiful thing. We should all be in touch with our divine masculine and feminine selves and have them integrate. I don't want to even talk about the two of those things. I'm talking about where they become one. We're supposed to be a fusion of that. So I don't typically walk around and say, oh, I'm into the divine masculine. That doesn't make sense in my mind. That implies that I'm half a person. I just live to be the fusion of both. Whatever you want to be careful. Look for the things that aren't true. You want to be a god, goddess. You want to be an awakened. You want to be divine, feminine. Use those words, but don't use those words if you're choosing to be asleep in consciousness. And another term for that being asleep is if you're still going to live in immaturity. Just any great counselor, imagine them sitting with you when you make decisions like that, saying to you, as an advanced counselor, that's actually not a healthy decision. But there comes a point where you'll just know that. You can just feel it. You know what resonates with healthiness. But use that word, please, maturity. It sounds like I'm talking senior level. I'm talking about awakened consciousness, maturity. Responsibility is part of maturity. But decision making. Make decisions that come from an awake person, but another term for it, someone who's spiritually and psychologically mature. And use that in your decision making. Use that in your dating. Use that also to resolve some of your old hurts and wounds. Step back to where, oh, that makes sense now that I think of it on that level. When I think of it as a maturity thing, yes, I can think of all kinds of things. Solomon said, when I was a child, I acted like a child, thought as a child. Part of what he's saying is, I acted mature. I did foolish things. Now that I'm awake, he was saying, now that I'm mature, now that I'm a man, but it doesn't mean gender. Now that I'm mature, I understand these things. And I'm choosing to do things as a mature level of consciousness. So it's nice to end with a bit of Solomon's wisdom, because it's profound. And I pray that this is somewhat easily digestible energetically or, on an audio level. It's not for some people, but allow it, just sit with it and look how easy it can just kind of flow in. So many words I used before. Oh, my soulmate, but it just didn't work. Oh, we were conflicted astrologically. Numerologically, it wasn't. All these terms, stop for a second. Maybe one or more of us was not psychologically and spiritually mature. And what's worse is if one of us is and the other isn't, and we don't see it. Now we're just confused. Why didn't that work? Why don't I have friends that I had when I was in high school? Because they're still getting stoned. I went to a reunion or whatever, one of those things, high school thing, about 10 years or 20 years after graduation. I was amazed. I just kind of walked through and kept a distance. I wasn't sure, whether I'm going to go in there. I was on tour in the area at the time, so I thought, okay, I'll go. And I went, and it was interesting. And this gal came up to me, and she said, "Are you Michael?" "Yes." She goes, "One of your best friends, Steve, he's my husband now, and he's in there, and he won't come over and invite you to our table, but there's the woman being mature, and he's being a punk, He didn't want to come and ask me, So she brings me over to their table. We sit there, and I'm talking to him, and I'm thinking it's weird because there's not a warmth, and then I notice he's stoned. But at some point, he was kind enough to say, "I'm going to go outside and smoke some more joints. Would you like to join me?" I'm not like, "I'd love to, but I can't because I'm spiritual." It's not in me. I'm not like, oh, I'm getting hives because of my nervous, because I need, it's not there. But I was amazed thinking, that's amazing. This is 20 years after high school, and you're still getting stoned like you did in high school. It's amazing. There's nothing to judge about it. It just is what it is. And at the end of the day, why are they staying broken, immature, etc.? You know why? Because they're afraid of their light. They're afraid of God. They're afraid of what's on the other side of all those compulsions that they currently follow. What if you are told no to intimacy when you want it? What if you can't just get stoned to numb yourself after work? What if you can't have a drink after work to kind of numb the fact that you're at a job you shouldn't probably be at? Well, but I can't. I got to, I'm going to retire in a few years. I know you got all that tension stuck to it. Do you know that's called an unhealthy relationship? You can have them with jobs. You can have them with inanimate objects and with people. If you're healthy, how would your life be different? If you just go with that, not what would you like stimulus-wise. If you are already spiritually and psychologically healthy, what would your life look like? And let's start moving in that direction. I can tell you, one of the biggest challenges with it is you might not have the same numbers of people around you, but that's okay. I'd rather be healthy and sane. I'd rather be alone and sane than have a bunch of people around me just kind of in the lostness of life, the shallowness. Don't judge them, because ultimately you should be able to walk even into a bar and hold your light, and not judge those people. Jesus didn't. He sat with what they call in the Bible the whores and the drinkers, and there's reasons why he did that. He says the reasons, but there's reasons why he did it. And one of them was because the priests, with all their rules, are the pendulum on one end, and they're hypocrites. The people on the other end that don't believe in any of this growth and all that, so be it. They don't want to hear it either. They don't want to hear it because they know. They don't want to hear it because they don't believe. I'm looking for all the people in between that are willing to surrender those extremes and say, okay, you know what? My heart is open. It's beautiful to attract people that want to hear what you have to say, but they also see what you have to present to them. Don't overtly do it, but just understand how important it is to be a wonderful example to people on this planet. Demonstrate kindness. Be that pillar of the divine feminine. Hold that presence. It's a strong presence. But it also means saying no to some things that are old compulsions. Closing your eyes for a moment, please. Everything on the outside of our lives comes from the inside. People destroy nature and have addictions because of the tempest they feel inside. That's all it is. Sedating ourselves on the outside comes from feeling anxiety on the inside. Running and cheating on our partners comes from anxiety inside. Just own it. And killing animals and being power hungry and money hungry, all it does is reflect something's off inside. And the same thing stands true with weather. There is no outside. The weather, the sun flares, the earthquakes, all these things are reflections of man's insecurities and unhealed wounds. If I'm a goddess, it's not the goddess of perpetuating trauma. If I'm a god, it is not the god of causing trauma. If I'm a god, goddess, a divine, masculine, feminine, or whatever else, Christed being, then I recognize I don't have to tell the weather to change. The weather is me. If I calm my soul, the weather will reflect it. All the challenges and riots and things that go on in the world, they're a reflection of mankind. Father, Mother God, guide me and help me. Divine Mother, Holy Spirit of God. All these years I've prayed for things I wanted, thought I wanted, needed, etc. It's enough. Now what I'm asking is to be a channel of your presence. If I'm channeling your presence, the weather would be embarrassed. Earthquakes would be embarrassed to come forward against the frequency of peace and love that I'm putting out there. I do not need you tsunamis. I don't need you storms. We don't need anything that reflects the pain of being in this world. We are home. We've always been home. Help us to remember that, live that principle. Father, Mother God, we're so sorry, and we surrender all our past thoughts and beliefs. It feels silly to ever have been psychologically, spiritually immature. Thinking we get from others, blaming others. No, it's enough. I'm here. You guide me and you show me. And in this, my divinity can shine forward. And your children, healed and affected by my choice to be sane and healthy. Let's breathe this in as a truth, as an affirmation to the world. Just our presence is enough. to let other people know they're loved and accepted. But we're not enabling immaturity, but we love and accept them. The same as we would love and accept a little child who doesn't know lots of solutions to major math problems. They're not there. It's not their time. It's immaturity on their part. It's okay. That's how we see people and ourselves in the world now, and we get it. Let's breathe that in. Hear the tones of the music softening your heart center. Each tone, each sound made, imagine they're becoming stars in the heaven above you. They're all twinkling little stars. And that light is shining down into our hearts, bringing us healing and confidence. Last breath or two, anchoring this into our being. And so it is. Thank you. We're going to close with our closing prayer in a moment, but just tune into what you're feeling, what you heard, what you learned, what you healed, what you experienced from today. The music, the sacred reading, the mission statement, the friendships, whatever it is. And when you feel inspired to do so, you can share what you might, feel can make a difference in your life, but also in the lives of people around you, all right? Sharing that helps you anchor it in more, by the way. Yes, dear? Nice. Synchronicity and the consistency of the message week to week, but also in your life, what's going on in your life. Nice. Thank you. Yes?
During the prayer, I remembered that at times when I was less spiritually mature, my teachers never judged me. That kept me going.
Nice, nice. Well, there's something about that mature wisdom that sees people tripping and stumbling and making silly decisions, but not judging them for it. There's a beauty to that. There's a difference between that and enabling the behavior, encouraging it, causing it. That's not what we mean by someone who looks upon you doing or others doing those things, but not judging them for it. Everybody is on the path. Everybody's going to get home sooner or later, and it's the easy way or the hard way. If they choose the hard way, be compassionate. If they choose the easy way, be grateful. But either way, it's all somehow okay. We all have angels supporting us, guardian angels. It's kind of too much to go into right now, but we all have a host of beings, guides, sometimes spirit guides, sometimes medicine, energy medicine of elders from other people you've never met, but there's just enough of a familiar energy. They said, let me act as one of the guides to this person on the path. They might have a familiar history or whatever it is, but there's a resonance. But there's such a divine plan that as soon as you die, it's like, oh, you're all here. Instead of, God, I'm just so lonely. As soon as you close the human eyes and open the other, it's like, what a waste of time that was. Nobody loves me. Hi, we're all here. You know, the hats, the party. Welcome to the other side. Where were you people when we were there all the time. And they'll be able to quote every experience you've had. We were there when you did this and this and this and this. And remember that? They'll know them all. And you'll feel kind of ridiculous, and you'll come back with an even greater intense feeling that you better pay closer attention. Anyone else? Yes.
An awareness of things in my life that connected with the version of me that was sleeping or the awakening version.
Nice. To see that sleeping version, awake version. And it's okay. It's when I was a child, I thought as a child. Meaning, when I was immature, I did immature things. Yes.
Hummus doesn't make you holy. And whiskey is not wisdom. No.
Yeah.
I work in the recovery field and trauma field.
Nice.
And they use the term emotional sobriety. And I love
Yeah.
that in, the maturity.
Yes, that emotional, that maturity, spiritual psychological maturity is also, emotional sobriety. Because you can even be chemically sober and still not get it on a behavioral and psychological and emotional level, which isn't complete recovery. But that's okay. As I said when we were closing, people are scared of sobriety. They're scared of clear thinking. Because if I'm clear in my mind, there are things I've done. There are people in my life that I'd probably say goodbye to, and that I don't want to do. I'm too attached. So it's clear-headedness, awakenedness is actually intimidating, or as it's been said, we're more afraid of our light than even our darkness. Yes.
To invest in the soul or God is the actual true organic self, not the body, not the mind.
Yeah. Our relationship with God, our who we really are, is the only organic thing. Even trying to do things physiologically organic is kind of just funny. It's not actually organic because you're still body-centered and you're not a body, which means it's an illusion, and that's not very organic. Does that mean stop taking care of it? No. But if you take care of the body as a reflection of loving your soul, it's healthy. If you do it because you're not in touch with your soul, it's unhealthy. Because one of them is compensatory rather than, wow, just a natural frequency that comes from that I care enough about myself. Yes?
Don't get down on yourself if it takes you to old age to become enlightened.
That's a great one. I didn't say that, but I don't remember saying that. But I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it because that was perfect wisdom. Repeat it one more time.
Don't get down on yourself if it takes you from old age
Yeah.
to become enlightened.
Yeah. Don't get down on yourself. Don't judge yourself if it happens to take you till you're 90 or 100 or to finally get it. The bottom line is, I'd rather be 90, get it, and be done with all my karma than to be 20 again and not get it. And I don't just mean age-wise. I'm talking also in the mind. And there are a lot of young people that are very confused right now. And you could say that's always been the case. No. It's reaching greater heights than it's ever been, greater numbers and intensity, that young people are coming in and they're saying, wait, there's something wrong, that we were supposed to be able to rely on mentors and healthy people. Parents started enabling the behaviors, making, unhealthy relationships with their kids. So now there's nobody to call on, nobody to trust. And the parents should probably consider going back and redoing that, not in another life, but here saying, you know what? When I was immature, I acted immature, and now I get it. Here's our new life, and here's healthy boundaries, and here's what I'm about, and reflect it to them now. Well, that's fine. Why didn't you do that 20 years ago? Well, thanks for sharing, kid. But we're going to do that. We're going to do that now, starting now. Now. Husbands, wives, partners, Well, you know, we used to do, I know, yeah, wasn't that great? That's when I was stupid. Now, I've had an awakening, and this is where I'm going. You know, it just, I'm not going for that other stuff. No more dating that, you know, hotimbeciles.com. You know, no, I don't need that. Can you still be attracted and have attraction? Sure, but healthiness is the priority. And I close with that. That for me, if people knew me, what I always most treasured, there's a few times in my life when I remember seeing and just really going into the appreciation of clear communication and love and trust. That's what always flipped my switch. I was never just the attractiveness or hot or stoned or none of the stuff of this world really attracted me. But one thing that happens in this world was when I saw people being spiritually and psychologically mature, when I knew I could count on them, when I knew that when they say they loved and supported what I do, they really did. It wasn't a fad. It wasn't a thing, you know. That they were really psychologically, spiritually mature with their emotions and what's going on with them. Love that. So what happens is when people have created a container, which is from me to the world, it becomes a container and reflects back because of kind people. Wow, we can step in that kind of container and just let go. That's amazing to me. And I know it's true for other people. Create the container in which they can stand and begin dancing. You know, that's just so, so beautiful. All right, thank you. We're going to take up our collection and do our closing prayer. Just please be as responsible and mature and generous as you can be with your donations. We greatly appreciate this. In the purple bags go your standard donations, and online there's a button you can push there to donate. The baskets are for any extra donations, people of lesser means, special projects we're doing here. Just do what you can, okay? Hold your love offering to your heart. Really hear it, feel it, believe it. Together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Thank you so much. It'll only take them a minute to hand that out, and we'll do the prayer. While they're handing that out, let me just remind you, today we have a member orientation meeting. If you'd like to become a member here, there's not a lot to it. Just sit in a 10, 20-minute meeting, 10-minute meeting, whatever, and they'll explain a little bit about it. But it does mean you're stepping in a little, it's not a lot asked, but you become a member, then we can ask you if you want to volunteer to help with some of our events. You can attend for free because you're a member. You can also vote when we make decisions, big decisions on direction that we go. Your vote is part of what we have going on here that helps direct us. So there's just, things like that, but it's just nice if you can, decide if you feel called to do that. There's also a meeting with people that are volunteering. It means volunteering there's two kinds. There's one that's on your papers in front of you that say if you want to be a volunteer, it means once every couple months we do things here like clean up the premises. That's one kind. That's not the meeting today. Today is the meeting for volunteers that attend some of our events for free, but your attendance means you're there to work. It means you'll move chairs around. The facilitator needs water. You get them some water. You're sort of helping to support what's going on here in our events. Lastly on that, John Dumas, our musician for today, he has a table outside and he has one or two of his CDs available there for purchase. And you can also consider giving him an extra donation for his work today, his sharing today. Yeah. Thank you very much, John. And there's also a table full of CDs, like 20 different titles, from a guy that was living here in Sedona and moved to. He's one of the original new age musicians, Chris Spheris, and he's moved to Europe years ago, but he gifted us with all these to share. You can have the Chris Spheris CDs, a donation. I think there might be it's suggested donation. If you have no funds and one of them calls you, feel free. But to even donate $1 or $2 or take one of each for $10 or whatever it is, we want to share those. We're going to let those go. So please, before you leave, and give them to people, share them with people. He's a wonderful, well-respected New Age musician and artist in a lot of other ways. So keep this in mind. If you're interested, we have the yurt outside. It's the round building. It's a healing room. We have crystal bed in there. It does some extraordinary healing. Please, if you're online or here, go to our website, click on becoming a member, and become a member so that we can get on our mailing list and not become a member. You can get on our mailing list, and we'll keep you posted on what's going on here, and that's really cool. One of the cool things coming up is the Daughters of Heaven Conference. So that's something we'd like you to feel here, feeling called to what is Daughters of Heaven. And if it's abstract, ask. Go to the website and learn a little bit more. But it's something you feel in here. It's like walking, I'm ready to just really walk in a connection with Spirit. I mean, a much closer walk with God. And it usually is something you already feel and maybe have felt for lifetimes, a closeness with God, but didn't know what form it could take. Now these Daughters of Heaven are like, we're becoming embodiments of the Divine Mother on earth. So it's just beautiful and powerful energy. And I think that's it. Thank you for watching us on social media. You can like and all those kinds of things to help us out. And we have an enchanted healing room just a block away if you want to receive body work, energy work, cranial work, all kinds of things that we do, healers that work there, just like we have our psychic fair with several readers here. And I think that's it on the announcements. All right, so please stand for our closing prayer. It's 1:15, and that's what we shoot for. We like our services, like most people. That's kind of the standard around the world is 1.25 hours. So that's what we try to stick to as best we can. So breathe in what you heard and learned today. These services they're trainings, they're downloads, they're connectedness. There's so many things happening consciously and unconsciously to help us on our path. Father, Mother, God, we're giving deep thanks that somehow, on some level, we asked to go to a new level of spiritual maturity, spiritual awakening, and that this was part of it. Thank you for the center being a part of that. Thank you for the attendees to our right and left and front and behind us. These folks are all doing their best to hold this space and commit to this new way of life and this new level of life. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Peace be with you all. Thank you.
I know, right?